So, welcome back to the Across Table podcast. My name is Kyle. This is Dylan. And if you noticed our artwork at the beginning, that was done by a really good friend of ours, Katie Berkoff. Link in the description to her Instagram below. We are restarting this because I forgot to hit record on some things. So, Dylan,
we've got a blooper reel.
We have a
blooper reel, but it's just camera recording.
It's just camera.
You know, it's got sound. It's whatever.
It'll be good. Dylan, introduce our great guest for us.
So we got one more time. How do you want to be introduced?
Just my name.
Just your name. You don't want to be J Diggy.
Diggy
J.
It's P Jiggy.
P Jiggy.
Papa Jiggy.
So this is Jaeger Moore. He is a director. He is a writer of film. He's shot some stuff. He's done some editing for stuff. He's done some acting for stuff. Basically, he's immersed himself in the film industry in an independent and professional capacity. Good Lord. Okay, so he has been mentioned in the first episode of our podcast for the SWAT story. We hope we'll hear that at some point.
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, so anyway, Jaeger and I have worked together in the past on Never Be Content, which is now on Blu-ray.
That's a nice plug right
there. Very limited edition.
Very limited edition. There are only 5 copies. There's going to be a Stone Circle death match. If you survive, you will get a chance to win a copy.
That's right.
Provided they're enough.
A chance to win a copy.
That's
how it goes, fan mail.
Fan mail? Okay.
Fan mail.
Yeah.
Fan mail.
No nudes. Just got to be clear on that one. Anyway,
yeah.
So before we really get started, why don't you talk about your experience in the film industry, and we'll go off of there.
I've been making movies since I was really young. I always used my mom's camera to make little short YouTube films, and I had a YouTube channel ever since it was made. So I've always been interested in making videos, but I didn't know I wanted to do it for a living until I was probably a sophomore in high school. And then after that, I just kind of never doubted it. I always knew after that I really wanted to make movies, and I was always thinking of new ideas and stuff. And then once the end of high school hit is when I really started actually making films, some of them better than others. And then I did some extra work, and I started learning through a lot of that experience about what on-set life is like in the professional set, or in a professional manner. And I did that for 6 months, and then I ended up making my first feature film in 2017 with Dylan, and then I just kept making short films after that, and then hopefully soon I'll be making another feature film.
All right, well,
so
looking forward to that.
Yeah, thank you.
You know where I am. All right.
So this feature film you're talking about, Never Be Content, I'm assuming that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that process? And we know that you're obviously in the movie, but it's also a film by you. Directed, written, all those things. What are some of the challenges, and how do you balance being in a movie and directing it at the same time?
Well, working with people you trust is the number one thing, because I usually operate the camera with most of my other films. So I had a friend, Kobe, who was really interested in the films, and I kind of talked him into asking him if you want to be cameraman for my film, because I don't have a cameraman right now.
Right. You can't exactly shoot something that you're also in.
Yeah, but he also didn't have any experience. So this was pretty early on, though. You know, this is before we were even sure that we were going to shoot this. So I asked him, and he said yes, and then he started researching how to be a cameraman, and I taught him how to use the camera and some of the equipment and stuff, and then he ended up doing a great job, and I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, some of the camera work in there is just completely bananas.
Yeah, I mean, he did a really good job, especially for it being his first time ever operating a camera like that. Definitely. And same went with the actors and pretty much everybody involved. Like everybody was competent enough to where I didn't really have to worry about them too much. I just pretty much told them what they had to do, what was going on in the scene, and I had to try and worry about myself too, because I didn't want to give a crappy performance. So I was wearing a lot of hats, but I had a lot of help at the same time. I didn't do everything by myself. Right. Far from it. You were there,
Yeah, do I?
Yeah.
This is a fun experience, but that was a long. I talked about the shooting schedule for that one, just how much work went into actually the production aspect.
Well, my least favorite part is usually pre-production, because
it does suck.
You don't know if it's going to actually go through or not, and it never does the way you intended it to. People call in sick on certain days, or some days don't work for other people. So I had a pretty good first AD who helped me plan out the whole thing because I'm really bad at scheduling stuff, especially when it comes to.
I'm trying to do that for our movie right now. And it's absolutely. I got a stack of note cards like this high. Like here are my shooting days.
I can't wait till I don't have to even touch that stuff. Like somebody else can
just
do it
imagine
for
being
me.
a professional.
You hire someone. Here you go.
Yeah.
Make it work.
Well, I mean, Ryan pretty much did that. He did most of the work. But we scheduled it out about a month in advance. I had the whole thing casted, and then in July of 2017, we started filming Never Be Content, and we stopped filming, I think, August 6th or 7th. And so it was basically...
I remember, because it was the last day was August 6th, and then it rolled over past midnight into 7th, which was my 22nd birthday.
Happy birthday. You get a movie.
Thank you. That was 3 years ago, but thanks anyway.
2.5.
2.5. Yeah, I'm not old yet. I'm 24.
So it was almost exactly a month of filming, and I think we filmed about 21 or 22 days in that. So it was a lot of stuff going on at once. But we got it done, and everybody was super cool about it. Nobody ever really rescheduled.
And Dom, for one, he was absolutely phenomenal in terms of that, right? How soon before shooting, like the first day of shooting, was he brought in as Rocco?
Oh, my God.
Which is one of, like... He had so much screen time. It was over an hour or something. One
of the main characters. Yeah. He's on the cover.
Yeah,
he's the cover.
On the cover.
There's Dom. There's his orange face.
He was like a really essential part, and my favorite character that I wrote for that movie. So I was trying to make sure I had the perfect casting.
He was the
for
cool
him.
one.
Yeah, and before I had 2 people in that role. One of them broke their hand, and the other one.
I think he was at the read-through. He was the one who was at the read-through.
Yeah, he was at the read-through. Yeah. He broke his hand, so he couldn't do it. And then I had a friend from high school that was really interested in acting, and so I asked him, hey, do you want to do this? I know you've been asking me you want to be in movies forever, and I feel like you might have the look. And I know you have some experience in acting because you did plays and stuff. And he's like, sure, I'll do it. So he signed the contract, and we're getting ready to film, and this is 2 days before. It's 4th of July, and he will not return my phone calls. I keep asking him to confirm everything. Like, he fell off the face of the earth. And I was losing it. I was like, well, everything is falling apart right now, and there's no way I'm going to be able to find anybody to fill this position. So I remember in high school, my first film that I ever made was for a film festival at our high school, and Dom played the main character in that. And I remember afterwards he was like, dude, if you ever need me in a movie ever again, just let me know. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ask him because he said that. And I called him up that day, and he's like, yeah, I'm totally down to do it. I'm like, all right. So I bought him the jacket and his costume and stuff the next day, went over to his house, and with the other people that I had for the role, I had to keep changing the schedule to help it work for them. But with Dom, nothing changed.
No,
like,
he
just
was
came
he was
on.
always on time. He was always on point.
And he was fun, and he was just a breeze to work with. Yeah. So I really, really got lucky with him, and there was a lot of luck in making this movie. In terms of the people, in terms of the timing and stuff, I mean, a lot of great talent went into it, and I'm really thankful for it. And Dom was one of the big parts of that.
Yeah. So if you're ever looking for an actor, Dom Palazzo.
Yeah.
Right there.
Palazzo, yeah.
Mr. Dom. So what makes an actor or a group of people easy to work with? What are some of those characteristics that you're looking for when you're doing auditions, when you're trying to recruit for those roles? What are some of the characteristics of the people that you're looking for to recruit?
I think the first thing is, I'm a pretty big first impressions guy, so
definitely.
When you walk in the room, it depends on like the vibe you give out, I guess, and stuff. But if you're easy to talk to, that obviously helps. I don't like to be completely professional all the time. I'm sure you know that.
I understand.
I like to joke around and have fun, and I don't want to constantly feel like I have to act like this business guy or
well,
a director.
It's a balancing act though, because if you're just too fancy free, you're never gonna get done.
Exactly. So I need somebody who can be both those things. I don't have a problem with somebody who's too professional. I'd rather have somebody be too professional than not professional enough.
Right.
And it obviously mostly comes down to if they're right for the role, for the performance and stuff. But compatibility with me and them is obviously really important. I've had casting calls where people showed up and I thought they did a really good job at auditioning for the part, but I just didn't think that they were going to be easy to work with at all. based on their
Yeah,
attitude.
I've
and stuff.
had very much that experience with around auditions.
Yeah, like there was this one time this chick she was asking me all these questions about the audition, and like I could tell she was like pretty she was pretty sketched out by it. And it was at a house, so I guess I could see where it felt a little bit like a couch. Yeah, I don't know what she thought. And I tried to reassure her, and I had a fair amount of people come in that day. So she came in with a friend, and I thought that was fine. But she had her purse sitting on the couch. She was standing up in front of the camera auditioning, and her purse was there, and you could plainly see pepper spray hanging out, and I was like, wow.
Just letting you know.
Yeah.
Whatever else you
It's
say.
Yeah, that's not gonna
But that's understandable from both sides there. I mean,
yeah, but
really,
it was just
it's like, okay, you come into the stranger's house and you audition.
I know,
I
knew her. I knew her from high school. Yes.
Oh, okay, that's
just
weird.
like it was a stranger.
Right.
Okay, yeah. See, I wouldn't feel comfortable there.
Like,
I mean,
we've known each other for years.
Yeah.
so on that one, before I forget, one of the auditions. Oh boy, our initial audition location
For your film?
For White Savior. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For White Savior, we were originally gonna hold the auditions in an office. But unfortunately, the person who was letting us use that office space didn't contact in time the
there was a bit of
security,
miscommunication,
or he did
where it's
and
like,
the security didn't get it, or if there was something with the time. Anyway, it was a holiday weekend, and basically I show up half an hour before auditions start.
It's not open.
And so this person who auditioned was just super on point, and also coming from South San Francisco, so it was
a drive.
I think it was BART, but even so, that's longer. It was at least 2 hours commute. So they were already there. Not
Before
actually
you
on
even
site.
showed up?
No, they were already in town.
Okay.
And I had to go back into my car and I just on my phone just type out this email like can't make it, rescheduling. Oh, sorry. Which was just so embarrassing because I don't like to leave that image, and that was
I felt like a piece of trash, and I wasn't even dealing with
honestly,
that.
Speaking of first impressions, that was rough.
I think that's one of the funnest parts of making movies. Is just having everything going on. Because retrospectively, it's so funny.
I will say that while that happened, and we did make something out of it, I would not change our cast at all. But we did lose about half the folks who wanted to audition.
But that just made it easier for us to decide at the end.
But
where'd you guys end up auditioning the people?
that's what I'm talking about. So the person who came from South San Francisco and was already there needed to audition. It was that or just no, gone. And it was one of two people who was going to audition for that role, and the other person ghosted. Which is fair because it was like a lot of jerking around, like trying to reschedule and all that. We ended up holding auditions behind the veranda.
Lux Theater, like the back corner.
Right next to
Just like in the parking lot next to a dumpster, like freeway going over. People are walking by. Oh, you're doing something for class? Like, yeah, I am doing something for class. Don't throw me out. And it was just like...
just champion level right there.
Awkward audition I've ever been to, holding it or being in it. And I've been to some pretty awkward auditions.
Yeah.
But it's just... I was like, this is a professional.
Yeah.
And they're doing so much to help me out here. And their first impression of me is just like, oh, God, I'm sorry. Here's my camera. Let me just hook it up. There's a car. Let's not show the car.
You're a tweaker.
Yeah, it was. I was wired. It was relatively early in the day. I hadn't had enough food. I was jacked on caffeine just because I was like, I got to be open. I got to be like, so we got a lot going, and I might be on my own today. Because I remember you had a potential conflict. Where you were able to make it.
I think I was working that day or that night or something. That day, I was doing both jobs.
Yeah, so you were, and I was supposed to have one of our friends come in and help with the auditioning process, and he stayed up far too late the night before.
God. I don't even want to talk about him. He makes me angry. But it just kind of unreliable.
So then I was on my own, and then basically we held one audition that day, and then we rescheduled to an actual scene location for our movie, which is the community center, which is where we're holding the read-through, which is just, right in Martinez. It's like a block away from the scene where the cop pulled me over in Never Be Content.
Yeah, it's actually
it's just right down there.
My neighborhood, my parents' neighborhood. And
West
so,
Air?
No, Parkside. So that park, that's right.
So Kyle's address is as follows.
And then so my mom's
exactly what you're
the
talking about.
vice president of the homeowners association. So like I hit her up. I'm like, hey, like what's up with the clubhouse rentals? Like, can we use it? She was like, yeah, here, fill out this form. So I do it. I send it in. Dom is the guy who's the president, and
Not Dom Plazo.
no, different Dom.
That would be kind of just like full circle wonderful, but no.
Yeah.
And I have a story about him and I and how we bonded, which is
Save that
weird.
for the sub-series.
Yeah, saving that for a sub series. But So I sent the application. I'm like, all right, I know I have to pay for this. Like, what's up? And Dom was just like, don't worry about it. We know you. I don't have to interview you. You're good. And I was like, oh, sweet. So we got that for all the auditions, which is like 2 or 3 days we had it.
Yep.
And then we have it for the read-through. And then I can schedule it anytime we need for the shooting as well. So it just kind of really worked out that, and this other office space would be amazing, super professional.
Yeah.
Ridiculously close, actually, to where you did the original, the car behind the dumpster. Audition.
It was supposed to be there, so I basically went to block over the veranda. It was like right off of Willow Pass.
How many people showed up to your audition?
Oh, in person or Skype?
I guess
the dumpster audition was.
We had 3 in-person auditions at the end of it. We had the dumpster audition. Kudos, consummate professional. I love that worked out. She's in the movie. I'm so sorry. We also had 2 at the community center. 3.
Oh,
it ended up being 2.
So you had multiple. So you had the audition on the same day.
No, we had to reschedule, and it was another week out.
Okay.
But we tried to get it as quick as possible, so we actually rescheduled a couple folks for there. But a lot of folks, it was just because Martinez, Pleasant Hill, that's a ways out, so we just held a couple of Skype auditions. My dog ate his pants because we held at my house.
His dog actually attacked me. She says she didn't, but
excited.
Like my thigh was bleeding, so get at me.
Not bleeding.
It was about to be like remember the old school Hulk, like 2003?
This is going to be a fun movie for you guys.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So I refuse to shoot any scenes in his house because I don't want to die.
You don't have to be there that day.
Oh yeah, just everyone. Our rest of our crew dies. So like, thanks. Back on track.
Yeah, that's a whole other story. Anyway, so the auditions, they have some trials and tribulations, and you can't count on all people, but some red flags there. Just reliability. But you're not going to cast somebody who's going to be take around that much because it's going to be hard to schedule them.
It's about being strong but being flexible in that, where it's like you want to have a skeletal system and all those things. And as you know, like nothing goes as planned at all.
Oh no, Murphy's Law is very real.
And one of the things I think I've learned in this process, not only doing the movie, doing the podcast, and a bunch of other things, being a public speaker for a number of years, is being able to communicate well. And being able to think in paragraphs but speak in sentences, if that makes sense.
I'm not good at that.
It's hard. And that was something actually one of my old bosses, senior pastors, taught me, and I thought it was really, really cool. Just because it did bring it back to me about being like, you need to be able to communicate effectively as quick as you can, and whatever you say, like try and have it stick in people's heads. But going back to your project with Never Be Content, there's some really funny scenes in here. I think they're very enjoyable.
Thanks, my voice cracks.
Just going back to high school, it's okay.
There you go.
My voice still cracks now, so I always question if I actually went through puberty or not.
Me too.
But I know there's a scene where Dylan assaults the camera.
Please don't say assault.
Assaults the camera with the trash can.
What in the world are you?
No, he assaults me.
Oh, he
with
assaults.
The trash
Oh, okay,
can.
yeah.
I
The
am
camera's
trash can
fine.
at
He's
him.
going after
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
But I almost hit Kobe.
Like,
Did it almost hit Kobe?
I did. It was like right on the spot he was. He was like,
No, that
right
was
as it
me.
landed. That was you?
That was me.
Yeah.
I swear I almost hit Kobe. It must have been like a rebound or something. I know I hit. That's right. I did hit your
yeah,
spot.
you almost
exactly where
only
you were.
killed him.
It was
Kobe
a
would have gotten
Rubbermaid
like
trash
banged in the
can.
shin, but that's whatever.
Okay, I do remember that now. It was a difficult thing to aim. I was on like the second story, and I was
good
aiming
aim.
right at the spot.
No, you had good aim.
It's like it was a one take.
Yeah, well, I mean, it turned out good. That was a good. It's in the movie.
Yeah.
There you go.
And it was really funny. He was telling me about that before I even got to see it during the showing.
I got hit
And
by a trash can.
I was just like super excited. I was like, I'm going to see this trash can thrown. I saw it.
It was well, the comedy worked out a lot better in that movie than I thought it would. Like
Okay.
when we showed it in the movie theater, I didn't think people would laugh at the jokes that I wrote in there sometimes, and
I mean,
almost everything got a laugh. I think it depends on the audience, but
It does, yeah.
I had a good audience that night, and it was fun to see what people thought what was funny. Sometimes it was older people laughing, sometimes it was everybody laughing.
What's the process you go through or went through when you're talking about, like, just wanting to make the movie, so you just make it, and all the pre-production that's super fun. Like, how did you know what the next step was every step of the way? Because I'm not sure if you did have like help or a mentor or anything in this. How did you know what to do?
I did have people who were helping me, mentors and staff. When like in school, I had a staff at my high school who had a son who was in the film, and she introduced me to him, Austin Robinson, and he taught me a lot about filmmaking that helped me throughout the years and still does help me. And then I was working with a writing friend of mine, Joe Little, who me and him were talking about the idea, and I told him I wanted to write this movie, and he was like, okay, do it. So, and I had made short films before, Man's Memory and stuff, which was 25 minutes long. So it's not like it's not a feature film, but it's not short.
No, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Still, and it's about as long as a TV episode, but with none of that freedom.
Exactly. So I knew I was capable of making longer form stuff. So I kind of knew that like there was nothing else to it but to do it.
Right.
Kind of thing. It's like, all right, I'm just gonna take more time to make this.
And you said something right there that actually a mentor of mine that jump started this whole process of the podcast told me. Because I was talking to him, John, and he's a executive of a Fortune 100 company, super chill guy, known for 10 years. Didn't know what he did until a year ago because I finally actually talked to him about it.
In charge.
He's just an alpha male in every sense of the word. But I was talking about the podcast. I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to do a podcast. And he was like, all right, do it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, like
yeah.
What is actually stopping you?
Exactly.
What do you think some things are that stop folks? Like what would have prevented you from doing this other than just doing it?
How about this? What's an excuse?
There we go. That's better.
You could have made.
Well,
for
I mean,
yourself.
the most popular excuse is I don't have enough money.
Okay. So what are you going to spend money on? Kit, right? Securing locations, insurance, permits, all that.
Yeah, I mean I made this for about $2,000, and most of the money went towards buying the equipment. And I already had equipment; I didn't even need to buy that stuff. But I had some money saved away, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy a camera and some of these equipment to make
something
it easier.
with some light settings.
Yes, and then I did pay for permits. I didn't need to.
I remember you telling us about that whole situation with.
Yeah, I bought the permits to shoot at schools and then shoot a movie at a school, and
oh geez, I didn't even catch that.
Oh boy!
And then they read the script. They had already told me if I get a permit or I'm sorry, insurance. Okay. I will be able to. Insurance is what costs the most money. Yeah. I would be able to shoot on the school premises, and they said, okay, come back with the insurance. So I did, and then I came back, and then they said no. So I had already bought the insurance for the amount of time we were going to shoot, and I just didn't have a location anymore. So I shot there anyways.
There you go.
So I did it anyway.
But in any case, so you used to have that, wasn't it? Because you also called police dispatch, and I know there were a couple of nights because we were all shooting at night.
Yeah.
Where it just the cops rolled up to see what was going on because we were like walking down the middle of the road, and it was 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah, but I honestly don't think that we would need. It's like if we're in LA or something, that might make a difference. That would be more of a thing. We were in a small town, and I lived around there, and I don't think we ever bothered anybody. Right. And they were pretty cool. None of them really ever asked if we had permits.
Fair enough. I mean,
I always called dispatch the day of every day, but. I think even if I just did that, it would have been okay,
Which is another thing, like it just to make your job easier, make everybody else's.
But it gave me peace of mind.
Yeah, exactly. And there were a couple of times that the cops did come up and they were asking us what was going on, and maybe if you hadn't have called dispatch, that'd have been an issue. Maybe if you didn't have insurance, that'd have been an issue, but you did.
Well, I would have always called dispatch even if I didn't have.
Right, I'd just do that. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's keeping people in the loop. Keep as many surprises off the table.
Yes.
As you can for other people, and then you just deal with all the other surprises.
Yeah.
That's how
just imagine having to reschedule as many nights as we were out there on just because we couldn't shoot that day because the cops sent us home.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that would have sucked.
The key thing is there. So one of the not the chief of police, but one of the lieutenants, I think he is now. Fred Ferrer goes to Creekside Church, the one I used to work at, so we were always super tight. So I actually got pulled over like 400 feet away from my house because I didn't have my updated registration on. This was like a month ago.
Oh, wow.
And so the cops come over. There's two of them. We start talking. He's like, you got your registration and all this stuff. I was like, it's literally at my house, like my parents' house at the time. I was just like, I'll put it on when I get home. They went and ran the plates. They were like, oh, you're good. And we talked for a little bit while everything was getting issued. And I was just like, oh, yeah. It's like, hey, is Freddie's still part of the force, right? He's like, Fred Ferrer. I was like, yeah. Go to the same church. And we started talking about that. And then at the end of it, I just got let off the hook anyway because you know how to talk to people. You're just respectful and it's fine. But it was just like, it just kind of reminded me, and even more so with John and all of his crazy connections. It's just like, I don't know how you have these, but you're John. The importance of, like, if you can make people trust you, like you, trust you and like you, they'll do things for you to see you succeed.
It opens a lot of doors.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you're not a jerk, then you don't have a lot to worry about,
right?
You know, but having permits gave me peace of mind. But like you said, like if you know how to talk to people, you might be okay. And you know, we were filming it in a way that wasn't really intrusive to anybody,
right?
So it's like even so, I feel like we would have still been okay.
And I remember every night we were in a neighborhood. Yeah. Or anywhere we would have any noise pollution for anybody in the houses, you just remind us, hey, like, keep it quiet. We are in a residential area. People are trying to sleep.
Yeah. You know what's super funny about that movie? As I was watching it, because I grew up in Martinez, obviously, I would see where you guys are driving, and I would understand the plot and where their characters would be going, but I'd be like, that street doesn't connect. I know that.
I know. It's distracting to me, too, but I'm like, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It works. It's just B-roll.
It was great.
Yeah. What was the initial question was what else stops people from shooting movies and stuff? Yeah, money and stuff and help is usually the main thing that people give excuses for not making their movies. And I knew that I didn't need a lot of money to make something, and I'd been watching YouTube videos that told me so for years. And I read a book by Robert Rodriguez called Rebel Without a Crew, which is a really good book. If you're interested in filmmaking, everybody should read it. It's about how he made his first film for $7,000, and it got picked up by Miramax and started his whole career.
Wow. Just to be clear, a no-budget film is anything under what, 500?
He made it for 7,000.
I'm saying like 500,000 is officially a no budget. I want to say, I don't know.
I have $499,000 or whatever. I don't have a budget. I mean, I understand you don't, but
I guess it's an opinion thing. I don't never really thought about it.
But I mean, like, all I'm saying with that is that $7,000 is phenomenally cheap for a movie.
Yeah,
that's
really
absolutely
cheap.
insane.
And he got picked up by Miramax and stuff, and started his whole career. And that was an inspiration. And I was like, I have friends. Yeah. I have the camera equipment. I have an idea, and I have a script now. Let's just make this thing. You know, I would rather make a full length movie than another short film because it's a milestone. And when I wrote Never Be Content, it was a 50-page script, and my friends read it over, and I just thought to myself, well, if I'm going to make a 50-page movie, I might as well just make a 90-page movie and make it a full thing. So I did. I fleshed things out a little bit more, and then I just started casting it, and I knew that's what I wanted to do all summer, and I wasn't going anywhere. So I just had to find people that were on the same boat, and I met a lot of people that year. A lot of people were introduced to me, like Dylan was introduced to me by one of the actors on the film, Travis.
That's right.
And then I met people in acting class that year. So like everything was lining up for me to make this.
I mean, school's a great place to network, but beyond that, it's just if you do a project, you'll start to meet people. And those people know people, and those people know people.
Yeah. That's the fun thing about living in a small town is you know, everybody. It's a community, so like there's a lot of people interested in what you're doing, especially with film. If you're not in Los Angeles, people aren't as jaded as they are down there. It's not a business like it is down there. It's an art still when you're in a smaller setting.
Don't go in green to Los Angeles. You will not make it.
You're gonna come out.
Start small.
I was gonna say brown, but I was like, maybe that's not okay to say. I don't know.
Okay.
It's so yeah. I just told myself, there's nothing stopping me from making this. And if I do make this, then I'm going to be able to make something bigger and bigger and bigger next time. Because I've only made 4 short films before that. And I was like, if I made 4 short films and then feature film, who knows what I could make next? Yeah. And I felt good enough that I could make it. So I sent it.
The Jaeger cinematic universe.
This wasn't, like, the way you're describing the script, it sounds like it's a scaled up short. But it really wasn't. This is a feature. It's a world apart. I mean, short films and feature films are just fundamentally structurally different.
I hate writing shorts. I almost can't do it.
I always get them too long.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's an editorial process, and maybe that's a sign that even a feature would be kind of bloated for me, but it's just too short.
But that's why it's been good that we got to work on it together. Gonna be honest, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
So. Scaling up a short film. Just visually, it was more complicated than some short films, because honestly, like a short film, you can shoot it with the camera I'm using for this, but I would never use this for White. I could feasibly use it for White Savior. I probably wouldn't want to. It's just technical aspects little hinky.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you could shoot with an iPhone.
you can honestly, yeah. If you got a camera in your pocket, you can make a movie. Just watch the iPhone codec; it's terrible.
Technology's come so far; it's like
really
ridiculous of what you can actually make a full-length movie on now.
There's no excuses for not making movies anymore. There isn't. Nobody has an excuse. It's really just you have to do it.
What was your inspiration for the actual story?
Quick note: if you're going to make a movie on an iPhone, landscape.
Yeah, exactly.
No, only portrait, only. What was the inspiration for the plot of Never Be Content? Like, where did that come from? I know you had been thinking about it for a while, but what kind of started off that?
Well, I was fresh out of high school. I mean, when I started making that film, I'd only been out 2 years, and I don't know. I just didn't know what I still felt like a kid. I didn't know where I wanted to go in life. Really, I know what I wanted to do, but I missed high school a little bit. You know, I missed seeing my friends all the time.
Nostalgia, consistent schedules. You know what's happening.
Yeah, I liked that stuff a lot. And the movie romanticized it and stuff, but and I had a lot of really fun times in high school. And a lot of my friends had these crazy stories, and all this stuff happened to us. So I was like, I can just turn this into a script. And I've always wanted to make a film like American Graffiti or Dazed and Confused, and I thought it'd be cool to make like a modern day version of that in my town, because I feel like a lot of people would relate to that. And so I took a lot of the stories from when I was growing up, and then things that happened to some of my friends, and I just wrote people that I knew in real life. And it was pretty easy because so much of it was real to me.
Right. When we were writing this White Savior, it's weird because sometimes people ask us about like, well, how did you start? And we're like, well, we were drinking in a bar, and then we just started kind of BSing this idea back and forth, and then I think it was Dylan or me, one of us said together, like, let's make a movie out of it.
I just wanted to do it. I mean, it sounded like a lot of fun. Why not?
Yeah. And I think at that point
it was off of 5150.
Yes.
So I think it was around that. Because we were talking about that. I remember on set.
We had just started the concept of it. When
it was between auditions, I want to say, and actual when we were brought in to shoot.
Yeah.
Right. Which is an okay gap because we were right at the end of that process.
That audition process was super fun for me too, just because it started with Dylan at the showing of Never Being Content. Dylan just being like, "So you're gonna be in his next movie?" I was like, "What? No." Because I had done some acting on some little kid TV shows when I was like in kindergarten, and like done some like plays and musicals, but like nothing big or fancy like that. And I was like, no. And then he introduced me to you actually, and I don't remember the exact phrase, and it was something along the lines of, he's gonna be your next movie, or he's gonna audition for your next movie. And I just like looked at him, and I was like, what the hell? And you were like, oh sweet, nice to meet you. I was just like, well, I'm tied into this now, let's go. And it was a lot of fun, and I don't want to obviously get into any plot details about that movie, other than to say I had a blast filming that. We definitely had some,
you did a really good job.
Fun times.
And also that was like one of my favorite notes that I've ever heard from a director given to Kyle.
Oh, that was amazing.
You look too sexy.
Oh,
it's creepy.
Can you just
sleeves rolled up and stuff?
Just going, hey.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this looks a little sexual. Let's down a little bit.
And it didn't help though. Even beforehand, me and him were going back and forth about just kind of jabs at it, and then we kept remembering that in the middle of it. But
thanks for bringing him along, because after Never Being Content, I'm like, nobody's ever gonna want to work with me again. This is it.
Okay, Never Be Content was a hard process, but it wasn't a terrible one. I know that there's some folks who were a bit fatigued by that emotionally, but I mean.
That's with any project that's a vision that you're helping to create. You're gonna, at some point, like, you're gonna have an unhealthy balance of whether you're an actor or a director or a producer or any kind of performer or really any kind of artist and creative. Like, there's going to be an unhealthy balance, and it's about being able to recover from that so you can stay true to your character, what you're about, and really what the project was about when it was birthed.
And also on this level, I mean, there are professionals, by which I mean somebody who wants to go into this profession and is intending to do it, is doing that. And then there are hobbyists, and sometimes you don't know what you are, but I think that's a healthy process to find that
it makes you or breaks
rough.
you.
It does. It does.
Well,
a shame, but
making movies is one of those things that a lot of the time you hate it while it's happening. But it's like I think I heard it on a podcast. Someone said, none of the stuff that you do in the moment is stuff that's fun in the moment is never really memorable. You know, like riding a roller coaster, you're never going to look back on that and be like, wow, that was such like a great, fantastic time in my life. I wish I could go back. But the stuff that was hard and challenging that made you grow, that's the stuff that you're going to look back on fondly. And shooting a movie like this is one of those things where it's like, it was pretty hard and it was pretty miserable sometimes working on it. But when I look back on it, it really was like one of the best times I had.
It was
a great summer. Yeah.
Especially now that I'm done, I don't have to stay up to 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Not yet anymore. Not for another month.
Wait until the next one.
But yeah, I actually love that, and that was said on this podcast, by the way, by Jaeger Moore. So there you go.
I didn't make that up.
But you're absolutely right. I think looking back, especially personally in my life and the struggles I've been through, like it is those hard times that really help define your character, because it's how you choose to rise to the occasion, how you choose to respond. I think a lot of people react to things around them, and they become, it's that thermostat versus thermometer concept of where you're in a room of people. You can either reflect the temperature of the room or you can set the temperature of the room. And really those hard things in life, those hard things about production, that's what you have to constantly, I think, be aware of.
Yeah.
And then you get into the nitty gritty of like, well, are you supposed to reflect what else is going on in the scene? But that's that's semantics. But really,
that's almost unique to any sort of an actor's scene. Like you don't necessarily want to set the temperature of the room if you're the bad guy and you're trying to shoot James Bond in the face. You don't be that guy. But in a professional atmosphere, just because you're not in charge doesn't mean you're not a leader.
Yeah.
And it's just important to.
There's a good question there. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to that in a second. Where was I? And it's just important to make sure that you're not the cause of, to put this in a negative spin, not be the cause of something going poorly, but you can also, in a more positive aspect, just make everybody's job easier and be pleasant to be around. If you're fun to work with, you're going to get work.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, sometimes...
It's easier said than done.
It really is. It really is. There are difficult folks out there, and that's probably the biggest challenge for me. But
sometimes I'm that way too.
Oh, everybody is.
Everybody has bad days.
If you think you're not, you definitely
you are currently that person. I think of this analogy, and it's kind of like the difference between a pothole or a speed bump. Speed bumps are there for a very intentional purpose, to keep everyone safe, to keep all those things, especially in school areas, obviously. Potholes are just potholes. They suck.
Yeah.
Destroy your cars. No, I do, and that's how I think a lot of people learn.
It's a handy tool.
I think, Dylan, you touched on leadership, and I want to know, Jaeger, what do you consider something that's synonymous with leadership in your experience, or how would you explain that?
Making it easy for people to understand why a person is doing what they're doing. I think leaders should be easy to understand their choices and stuff, because if you're just taking orders from like a teacher that you don't like and you don't understand why you're learning this lesson or something, then nobody's really going to like you, I guess.
So it's a question of inspiration?
I guess. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know.
But I mean, that's
still learning myself, so it's like...
There you go. I mean, well, nobody's not. And again, if they think they are, then they definitely aren't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important. If like you're saying, if you don't know what you're doing, you're never going to get people to sign on.
Well, I mean, it's not even if that you don't know what you're doing. It's that if other people don't understand what you're doing.
Okay.
So I think that if people can relate to you and understand where you're coming from and what you're trying to get done, that makes it easier for people to help you out and stuff. Yeah. And you being able to lead a team that can make something great or do something great, whatever it is that you're doing.
Right. And you can, I mean, as long as your people know, you're making a movie. If they know that, and they have the script, you hire or bring on people that are the cinematographers. You hire or bring on people for the sound people. They know what they're doing, and let's say they're better at their profession or part of it than you are, and you give them that role because you're all on the same page, you're on the same path, and able to, obviously I have a physical product of all of that.
There you go.
But that there is a end product that you all are working towards, and it hopefully encapsulates your vision as the leader, as the main leader of it. But oftentimes, I think that vision does change as you bring in more people, and not in a bad way.
Yeah.
Things evolve. I mean,
just be malleable.
For us, it was even this podcast has evolved. We didn't have any of this crap for the first one, and we recorded it in my parents' house, and questionable at best. And but it was it was just something you had to start at some point, and
Yeah.
then it just evolves,
Take
gets
the leap.
better. Take the leap and get uncomfortable. Get comfortable.
Get
with
comfortable being uncomfortable, damn it.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
darn it.
Darn it. Gosh, darn it.
And that's the thing. Like, don't let discomfort
Yeah.
dissuade you from doing something, because everything is uncomfortable in some capacity.
Yeah.
And you're going to be uncomfortable of something at one point or another.
And
too.
that's
Yeah.
the best place to learn, because if you're uncomfortable, it's because you don't feel secure. And if you feel it's like Lauren Michaels says, if
Yeah.
you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're going to learn best when you're in a situation that puts you
Out of your
on your
comfort
toes.
zone.
Out of your comfort zone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because there's reason for that. Something's happening there, and you're going to learn from that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I was going to say.
Yeah. It's okay.
That's
We'll just
fine.
this is PGMA.
We're not
I don't know.
monetized anyway.
TVMA. Yeah.
There we go.
I said it quiet.
Not yet. Well, oh, geez, I forget what I was gonna say. This is going all over the place. Dylan, you have anything else you wanna ask about this? I mean, about the movie. It's weird to have you ask about the movie since you were there, but also you were there, so you can ask more about the movie. I just got to see the end result, which was fantastic. Oh, I actually have a question. So it's based off of high school stories and whatnot. So I know there's a party scene in the movie. Was that like based off of an actual party or anything? Like
no, the party. I mean, no. I guess like the atmosphere was. But
Yeah.
There was a lot of them in high school, so I don't really remember a lot of it. But I remember when we shot it, we were shooting it at Ryan's house, and he wasn't super crazy about having it at his house. And I was like, you have a pretty good house for it. Come on.
This is a great party. That's the
somebody-
first thing you say when you walk
Yeah.
in.
We needed. I remember we needed props to be the alcohol bottles.
Oh yeah.
We do not condone underage drinking on the Across the Table podcast.
We don't condone
But-
anything of breaking the law here. We're good, upstanding citizens that are perfect.
Absolutely, I've never done anything illegal. But anyway, I brought a bottle of dry vermouth, which is a fortified wine that is usually used in martinis to make them a little bit sweeter.
Very
It's-
fancy.
And you can drink vermouth on its own, but if it's nice, and this was not nice vermouth, but I had the bottle and I forgot to change it for water.
What?
Because you're not supposed to have actual alcohol on set.
I forgot to change it for. Ooh.
I did, and that's not something that's gonna happen in hours. But because I learned from that lesson. But I remember it was conspicuously empty at the end of that night. So somebody was just drinking straight vermouth.
It's
Like
method
$5
acting. It's
a
okay.
$5 bottle of vermouth. First of all, that's not very boozy. You're not gonna get a buzz off of that unless you drink a whole bottle of it. Don't do that.
They did.
Don't do that, and they did. I mean, it was like halfway gone. It's just like ew.
There was a night on set. Fuck it, I'm gonna say it. We were filming the night scene at the. We were filming a night scene, and there was an extra there who was who brought alcohol. I didn't know that he had alcohol and he was drinking. And then he offered it to a crew member, and that crew member was drunk the entire night. And I remember at the end of the night, I looked at him like, that was a good night. Like, I didn't think we were actually going to get that scene done. That was a really hard scene. He's like, yeah, I can't believe I did the whole thing drunk, too. I'm like, wait, hold on, what?
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I was like,
you
what?
played it off really well.
I thought you were just really good.
Just like, yeah, I thought you were calm, man.
I was like, he's a little bit more happy than usual.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's have fun.
No,
have
you had a
fun.
good day. You got some.
It was a really long night that night, too.
Oh my
It was
goodness,
crazy.
that was
One of the things I think I really enjoyed seeing, both in this movie, in this process that we're going through, and then as far as I could tell with 5150, like, I was really astounded just by the ability to bring people together that I think the production of movies has, from different races, creeds, religion, whatever it is, just different opinions. And I love seeing people come together, and that's really what this podcast is about, and really our production, everything. But just bringing different people together of completely different views and just being able to press together on a common goal. And so that's one of the things I really enjoyed in seeing in the movie. And that's not necessarily to say diversity for the sake of diversity.
Yeah.
But you brought together people that were different for a common goal. With or without the intent to, I don't know. But it was just really good to see that. And I think oftentimes, especially in the world we live in today, everything's so divisive.
Yeah.
It really is.
And we were talking about as we were trying to figure out all this stuff, which was failing hardcore. We were panicking yesterday.
Oh boy.
Like we're some of the last age group of people that remember 9/11. I know that's like a super big shift
Let's
of tone. Okay, no, I want to.
turn,
I don't know,
also-
but like, I remember the within the week of 9/11, like it didn't matter what you looked like, who you were, what you believed in. Like everyone was like super together as a country.
I don't know. How old was I? Like 4? I was 4.
No, wait. How old are you now?
22.
Oh, I didn't even know he was younger than you.
Boy.
Oh my
Jaeger,
gosh.
you're on the wrong
So,
side
yeah.
of the cutoff.
You're on the wrong side of the table. All right.
All right.
So, I was in 3rd grade. He was in 1st grade, and I just remember like seeing people from that like just normally wouldn't be together, normally wouldn't hang out or associate together. We're just like all about this like country. I don't even know if pride's the right word, but like we cared about each other.
It was a patriotism in a real sense,
yeah,
and not
a real
put a
patriotism.
massive flag in your truck kind of sense, which may be a patriotic person, but it's a little peculiar.
It was almost like the whole country was a small town, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
exactly.
it. And that's a sense that I got, when we were working on the movies. So there's that kind of sense of pride, and also we were a small town. We were a family. There was that family environment. Even if I was, for us in 5150, it was a very small role.
One day
but it
shooting.
felt like we were really a part of something greater. And I think that, and especially as a leader, as a producer, as a director, and for you and for us, that's something that people crave and want, and they want to be a part of that. And when you're someone that can cultivate that kind of atmosphere, that kind of environment, I think it just helps people want you to win because they know they're going to get more of that. And so I think it's really a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it was going to affect people the way it did. I didn't think that it was going to be as much fun as it ended up being, and I'm glad that it helped people reflect on what they want to do a little bit more.
Right.
Some people I talked to said, like, I really want to start acting because of this and stuff, and it's just so much fun when you do it. And it's one of those things where it's you actually get to sit down and watch the final product,
right?
Which you can't always get to do with a lot of lines of work. And everybody's working towards one goal, and then sometimes people might not get along, but it's a family. If people don't always get along, but when you're making a movie with people, they're your family, whether you like it or not, and you're gonna finish this film. And we always love each other when we're making them, even if we don't actually act like it. But
that's family right there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I really like making movies, is because you don't really find that in a lot of different places.
No, you don't.
And everybody has the same interests most of the time, so it's easy to talk to people and stuff. And
I mean, that said, you still brought folks in just from completely outside
oh
the
yeah,
sphere of the film
most
industry.
people not.
Didn't you just go up to a police officer, and say, "Hey, you want to be in a movie?"
He drove up. I think we were filming the egging scene.
That.
Yeah.
The egging
He was like,
scene.
"You guys
We were filming the
Oh, my
egging
goodness.
scene. He was like, "Hey, what are you guys up to?" I'm like, "Filming." And he was like, "Oh, I knew you were making this movie. I have a bunch of police uniforms that I'm not using anymore. If you want them." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have a cop. Do you want to be in it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be in it." And
He was a cool guy.
yeah, and he turned into a pretty good friend. And
Well, we had to jump his car.
oh yeah, the police car
Save
died.
the police.
Yeah,
That's
the
good.
police
Put
car.
that on your resume.
There you go.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah, most of the people that I work with right now usually don't have experience in film, but I think it's better that way.
It really is. I think art, when you pull somebody from outside of that experience, it adds more to it.
Yeah.
Just taking, say, a lawyer to be in a movie, they've got a lot of outside experience and just a completely different walk. And I think that adds an element that we wouldn't otherwise get if it was just in a little bubble.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's just for Never Be Content, a lot of it was casting people that I thought fit more or less in real life. Some not so much, but I just thought that they could really fit that mark because I wrote most of the characters from real people. I didn't actually. What did he say?
We got about libraries closing soon, so we'll hurry. We'll finish this thought.
I forgot what I was saying. Oh, yeah, I forgot what I was saying.
Okay, so it was about bringing folks in, or you're working with a lot of folks who are not part of the film industry right now?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a lot of these roles from people that I knew, based off people I knew, and I wasn't going to actually cast them, but, it was easy to cast people because, I was casting people that were roughly that age, and everybody could relate to it one way or another.
Right.
And I didn't think you need to know how to act necessarily, as long as you understand the circumstances of what scene you were in and what the character is going through and stuff. It was pretty easy.
Right for what that person can do as opposed to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
write what you have with what you have. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't be able to do the same thing if I wanted to make, a war movie. I couldn't just take any guy off the street and get a good performance out of them. But I think that's one of the things with low budget filmmaking is you make things that you have at your disposal right now.
Be malleable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, we're almost out of time for today, but Dylan, I think you have one last question you want to ask Jaeger before we.
Remind me real quick what that was.
One piece of advice.
Yes. Actually, what would you recommend people do if they were interested in becoming a filmmaker? And off of that, what would you do as a piece of advice for how to be a good leader?
If you want to be a filmmaker, the internet is probably your best resource at, learning how to do everything. I don't think you need to go to film school at all. I think that's a waste of money. I think it's good to maybe go to like a community college and take a couple classes on acting and stuff if you're interested in directing. And just meet people. You definitely need to know people if you want to make movies. You can't be an introvert. You can't be. No. You have to be able to communicate with people and make friends. And being an extra and going on a professional set really helps you learn how real movies are made on the big screen. It'll help your skills and help you understand how they do things, so that way you can translate it into maybe a lower budget format. Those are the really big ones, but mostly don't be lazy. Just do it.
That's good.
Even
That's
if you don't
good advice
think you
for
can
anybody.
if you don't think that you can do it, find a way to do it. Like if you don't think that you can make a war movie, then make a really small scale action scene or whatever. I mean, there's one way to do it no matter what.
I think the first step in any process is finding out what the rest of the steps are.
Yeah, and not the first thing you're going to make isn't always great. You know? You might like it, but it's not going to be an Oscar-winning movie, and you just got to keep making crap until you finally find your voice.
Yeah,
and then after that, you're pretty much on your way. And the second question was being a good leader. Don't be a jerk.
There you go.
Don't be a jerk.
Try and make yourself understood.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as movies, it's your vision. If you're directing, it's your vision. It's your movie. It's not made by a committee, so you have to have like a strong stance on what the vision of the film is. But it's still a collaborative process. So be open to other people's opinions and stuff at the same time. But it is your choice that matters in the end of the day, as far as film goes.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this second episode of the Across Table podcast. Once again, I'm Kyle. This is Dylan. We are joined by Jaeger Moore, and
thank you.
Artwork done by Katie Berkoff. Link will be in the description below. Let us know what you want to see on the next podcast. If you have any ideas for what you want us to talk about. And thanks. Leave a comment, all that good stuff. Have a good one. All right.
Cool.
We did it.